Hello, everyone. Welcome to MindBody TV. I'm so grateful to have you here. We have a special guest today I'm going to introduce in a minute. We are beginning, this is the beginning of May, so we're starting our MindBody Miracles series. We did this last year, and it was so loved. It was so well received. And the purpose of MindBody Miracles series is to show people what's actually possible that really goes beyond the paradigm so many are living in, where they think disease means I'll be sick forever, or I have this thing I'll always have to deal with, or because I have this diagnosis, I will require medication. There's no other way. Or because I have this diagnosis, it can't resolve, right? And the truth is, your body does have the capacity to heal. Your body does have the capacity to resolve disease and no longer have that disease and no longer have symptoms. And it sort of like breaks the barrier for a lot of people where we've only seen it one way, to learn firsthand from these individuals who've come either full circle with, resolving a disease, cancer, MS, rheumatoid arthritis, severe anxiety, depression, chronic fatigue syndrome, Lyme disease, the list goes on, or are in the process of resolving it in ways they never imagined, to let them share their story so that the world can see, and you can see, and this community becomes more richly cultivated with individuals who are beginning to see things in a new way and understand the body in a new way. And then the other purpose of this is we launch the Embracing Health program each year at the start of June, where I work with individuals to integrate this work and to integrate that healing throughout the year. And this is sort of the kickoff for that, so that those of you who do want my assistance, my team's assistance, and to come through this integration in a more powerful way will know and will resonate with this and can get information and ask questions and have an awareness of like, yeah, that's me. I can see myself in that, and feel that inner yes, ding, 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 if this is a program that resonates with you and you're ready to move forward. So this is two-part. And today I have Liesel Fedkenheuer, who is joining us today to share her story. She's come through the Embracing Health program over the last year and sort of raised her hand that she was really enthusiastic about sharing what happened, what it was like, what she was dealing with. She had been diagnosed with Lyme disease, rheumatoid arthritis, had really severe symptoms, tried all kinds of things without really having the resolution she wanted. And this work really resonated with her. So she's going to be here to share her story. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting to be here.
Well, I'll invite everyone listening to share where you're tuning in from, and any insights or inspirations as we go along. Liesel, some of them I'll pop them onto the screen so you can see them as well or speak to them. Okay. But hello to everybody who's listening live, and hello to everybody who is listening to the recording later on as well. So why don't you just start with where were things before you found this work? What were you struggling with? What were the symptoms you'd had? What diagnoses maybe? What were you doing that brought you to this work?
Sure. Yeah. I guess I started the program with the diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis as well as Lyme. And I would say too, I had a lot of heaviness around that, a lot of depression, a lot of dark times around that, just because, like you mentioned, there wasn't a lot of relief or resolving. And oftentimes I just kind of felt like, is this, am I ever going to feel better? Is this ever going to be worth it? So I had, I was on medication. I am still on medication. And I was working with, so I had my Western medicine doctors, and I was also working with a Chinese medicine doctor with herbs for the Lyme. And the dark place, the darkness, I had tried some forms of therapy, but wasn't really, and I could feel it wasn't exactly what I needed. And not, not to discount that at all. I had, I studied psychology. I have a master's in psychology, so it's what that was. But it wasn't what I personally needed, and so yeah. So when I came into the program, I was really looking for help, kind of in all those areas. And it was so funny because I remember the first time I came across your work was in the Tapping World Summit a year ago. So not this last one that just happened. And I just was so drawn to your energy and to who you were as a person and your tapping. I had been doing tapping, so that was another thing. I'd looked at a lot of different kinds of other modalities of healing. So I was doing a lot of EFT tapping. I had done Ho'oponopono. I had looked at access consciousness and studied with that, and I had done a lot of other things, which was so cool when I came into the course. And you had integrated all of these things. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm really in the right place. So, but yeah, even those things. And I think for me too, what I didn't realize was, I would do those things and then I didn't continue through. I didn't, I would do them for a period of time, but maybe not continue them forever, sort of thing. Yeah.
So not like in a way that was really effective or really potent.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Like it would be helpful for a period of time, and then I would get discouraged, or I would, or I'd walk away from it. And I think that was what I was really looking for, was somebody who could kind of guide me and help me in that area, because I knew that was, I had all these other areas, kind of it covered. I knew I had good doctors that I was working with, and so it was really looking at this other area that I just really felt strongly that was the key that I was missing.
So what were the symptoms you were experiencing on the front end? Besides just the diagnosis, what was your life like and what were the symptoms?
Yeah, so I was really exhausted. Like there was just so much fatigue. And like just a lot of inflammation. So with the rheumatoid arthritis, it was, for me, and again, everyone's so different, but I would experience it throughout my body. So there were different medications I tried that stopped working. I went through a lot of them. And just still that real major inflammation. So I would get
Throughout your body, like joint pain.
Joints, yeah, joints, and especially like wrists and ankles, but also sometimes throughout the bigger joints as well. With the Lyme, it was so hard to differentiate. It was so hard to differentiate, like what was what. So people would ask me, and I'm like, I don't know. It's just all there.
Lyme can create that level of inflammation. It can create that level of joint pain, and then you kind of like sideline get diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, but it's like doesn't necessarily mean anything as far as what caused it, what's going on, what do I need to do to resolve it. So sometimes we have lots of different diagnoses, but there can just be one thing going on that's creating all that inflammation, that's like doing this to the gut and doing this to the joint and doing this in the skin. And it will look like lots of separate diagnoses, but it actually can be one core underlying cause. So it's helpful to have a perspective where we can look at that and also address it.
Yeah. And that reminds me too, there were also gut issues, which I had seemed to, for me, a lot of the gut issues were alleviated when I started eliminating gluten from my diet. That was a real huge one for me. And that, so the gut issues weren't such a problem by the time I came to the course. The other thing that was there was a pleural effusion in my left lung, which they feel like was connected also to the rheumatoid arthritis. Yeah. So, and that too,
like a lot of like struggle, pain, like any major limitation when feel for where you were in the beginning?
Yeah, there was definitely mobility limitation there because of the knees and the ankles and the swelling in there and the pain. So that was definitely something I was not doing a lot of exercising, walking around. I could get around, but it wasn't like I was really thriving in movement, that's for
Yes.
sure. And I would say one of the biggest things was the depression.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very
Uh,
common
like,
with that
yeah,
kind of picture.
yeah, yeah. So that was really, really heavy at that time when I started.
Yes.
And that was the overwhelming part for me. The pain, since I'd been dealing with it for so long, like the everyday pain I was just kind of used to it.
Yeah. Yep.
And I mean, I was still getting a lot of flare-ups. So out of the blue, right? Those surprises that
Yeah.
flare in the body. And that was still happening often. So yeah.
Yeah. I can relate to that. I had the same kind of experience where there was like so much pain that I just kind of normalized it and thought like, well, I mean, maybe it's because of this and maybe it's because of that. And it wasn't the most unbearable thing. It was like the hopelessness, the heaviness, the powerlessness was a way
Yes.
more bigger in the forefront. So for those of you asking what's a pleural effusion, when there is fluid on the lung, so it kind of surrounds the outside of the lung, the fluid can leak out of the lung and it can create a collection, a little pocket of fluid around the lung. Sometimes it can be so big that the lung gets compressed and breathing is difficult. It can cause pain. So this is not uncommon with inflammatory conditions like rheumatoid arthritis, or even with, the obscure symptoms that happen with Lyme and the inflammation that goes along with that, disruption in the immune system. We can see pleural effusions with a lot of different things. So it's not a very specific finding. Sometimes when people have cancer, there's inflammation that happens. They may have some fluid around the lung as well. Did you have, or were you having a lot of pain with that, or shortness of breath, or any symptoms?
Yeah, I mean, initially when it happened, there was severe pain. But when that was several years ago, but when I joined, it was more limited breathing. So I've really had to um, it's just, I guess, welcome that in. That's what I've learned to do with you. And
People will find like maybe when you're at rest, you're okay. But if you go up the stairs, you're like huffing and puffing because there's a limitation on how much the lungs can do.
yeah.
So what was it like? So when you joined the program, was it like, wow, I'm totally clear, boom? Or was it like, Jesus, it's going to be another disappointing thing? What was that process like?
Oh, joining the program. Yeah, I was really clear. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I need to do this. This is something I got to make happen. I'm going to make happen. Right. Yeah, I was very clear on it.
And then what was it like participating in this work? What was your journey like, and what kinds of things changed?
So it's been really, like, I've been really thinking back on it, and it's been really cool. Um, I came in and, I think, well, at least for me, I was really clear on coming in, but I was still, okay, well, I'm going to do everything. But there were some things that I wasn't totally, for me, the whole Facebook thing was a little bit, I don't know. And so I know starting off with that, I was definitely, a little more held back on that, I would say.
Mhm.
But it was so amazing over the year for me, because I was like, just be open to everything. I want to just be open to everything, take whatever comes in. Um, and over the year, I definitely noticed like my time in the Facebook group was it just it was so lovely to hear other people's stories and what they were going through and kind of realize, oh my gosh, I am not alone in this. This is, there's other people and their stories were really inspiring or just really helped me to kind of find more in me as well, like what they were going through. Then I was like looking inside myself as well. I would say the biggest thing happened the other day, which was really amazing on Monday. So, as you know, on the weekend, I did a thing. I did a website, and on Monday, I was like going, I'm really excited. I'm really excited about this. Like, I was so nervous and really excited. And then I was thinking about our session today, and I was like, oh, I'm really excited and nervous about this too. Isn't that interesting? And then I thought, I'm excited. And I thought, oh my God, I'm actually excited. I could feel the excitement. And that was amazing. And I just started crying. I hadn't felt something like that because I was realizing, as I was thinking about this upcoming interview, how I felt lighter and how I hadn't felt the darkness for several months, and how I just kept feeling lighter and lighter. And I felt excitement, like I really felt it. And that was amazing. And that has made this entire year completely worth it, just to feel something other than darkness and a weighted blanket. I think at some point I mentioned to you, I felt like there was this weighted blanket on all of my emotions. And then I was just feeling heavier or darker emotions or less energized emotions. And so on Monday, yeah, I realized that, and I felt it, and I just started crying and crying because it was just so amazing to me. So thank you. And yeah, and I just welcomed it in, and I said, and I'll take more of that. Yeah, it was a really, really big shift on Monday. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
Thank
But
you.
I would say over the year, for me, it's been a real, gradual change. Like I said, it's like starting, oh, I'm noticing, oh, look at that. I haven't felt this darkness for the past few months. Like I'm feeling lighter. And like there were smaller things too. At the beginning, one of my very first realizations, big noticings, was that, I was in this place of my body just being in a constant state of on guard. Like, there was so much tension in my body that I never even realized. And, that it was softening into that, even just 2%, and that was my first huge, huge thing. I was just like, oh my gosh, wow, and yeah.
Well, that's a very significant piece. When we cultivate the power to drop into the body and diffuse that fight or flight state, now we can have healing in each moment. We can have fluidity in each moment. We're resolving the inflammation. We're detoxifying the body, healing the gut, actually activating the immune system so we can release the Lyme, because it's the immune system that helps take care of that. So it's not insignificant, to have that awareness. And I always talk about like that stage one where you're like, oh my God, I'm aware of how much tension and how much fight or flight I'm in. And it feels like, well, that would be a bad thing, but it's the awareness is the medicine. And then in stage two, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm seeing the effects that it's having just by being aware of what's happening is changing what's happening. And that's really what MindBody Medicine is. It's how I'm being present to those symptoms, how I'm in relationship with what's happening allows it to either intensify and ignite, and I'm clamped down in fight or flight and the body, gets sicker, or opening and letting some resolution happen day by day by day. How would you say your symptoms are now? So the depression, it sounds like there's beautiful, which is such an amazing thing that by the way, for everyone listening, is very, very common that when we are in chronic pain or chronic illness, and when we get a diagnosis and we're told this won't get better, you'll always have this, you are this disease, we kind of identify with it. It's so heavy. And it's not because it's this terrible thing. It's because it's a lie. whenever we buy into a lie, the body knows like, this is not true for me. It's going to give you that emotion of like, it's not true. Whenever we honor the truth, it's like ding, 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 ding. You know, when I sat there in the doctor's office years and years ago and was told, you have this autoimmune disease, you'll never run again, you'll have this and that the rest of your life, I was like, I might as well be on a puddle on the floor. I am dying right now. Like, my life is over. And then I remembered, wait a minute, none of this is actually true for me. This is true for him. This is his perspective. That's how he sees the world. I know better, right? I'd studied how the mind affects the body, how the body heals itself. Sure, I didn't know how to activate that yet, but I was like, I'm just realizing the heaviness and the lightness of like buying into that this means I'm doomed versus knowing, no, there's something else possible for me, even if I don't know what it is, and immediately feeling that lightness. How would you say this has affected your body or your symptoms?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing, I've started stretching again. So I haven't done that for a long time. I used to kind of do it every night. And so that was something I felt really called to do. Again, my body just was telling me, yeah. So I've started stretching again. And do have now like a bike that I've been using. And a little, one of those little bouncy little, whatever they are, you know what I mean? Those bouncy things you bounce on, a trampoline, but one of those small ones, right? And going and starting to go for walks.
Oh, wow.
And I notice, you know, I have way fewer flare-ups. And when I have them, it doesn't bring up fear in me anymore. So, you know, when I would have a flare up in the past, I would get so afraid, and it was kind of like PTSD, you know, it was like, oh my gosh. And so now I don't have that fear. Like, I just, if I feel something, I just kind of, I know the tools now to let it move through me, you know, more easily. And now, even if I do have one, it's generally not as long, you know, it goes through my body so much faster, and it hasn't been so intense. So that's awesome. Yeah. So those are kind of some of oh, no, and actually the really big one is, sorry. And it's funny how you kind of just can fall so easily back into what you used to know, but I have way more energy. I mean, yeah, I can get through my day, not feeling so exhausted at the end or needing a nap. You know, I might decide to have meditation time, but I don't feel like it's a necessity. So my energy level has gone way up. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's another thing that becomes almost universal, is like the heaviness and the fatigue and the overwhelm, and the body just kind of shuts down little by little. So that's massive. So you said you were on medications. There's still some. What is all happening there, and what's your experience been like through this work?
So Kim, I don't know what's going on, but I can't hear you.
Oh.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Do you want to go out and come back in? I can hear you.
Okay.
All right. Hold on. Hang on, everybody. Just pause for a minute. Maybe come back.
Okay. I will.
Okay. See you in a minute. This is great. Patrick said, can depression be from sexual trauma? Yes. There are many, many studies in medicine about trauma in childhood and later depression, anxiety, and medical illness, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, autoimmune disease, MS, gut problems, food intolerances, kind of the whole gamut of what we're dealing with in the Embracing Health work are all shown to be associated with childhood trauma, meaning they increase together, right? More incidents of trauma will be hand in hand with increased incidence of these diseases. But the thing that's really interesting to look at is very often what is actually traumatic in the system may not be apparent to us looking back on our lives. Like, well, my parents were really great. This happened, that, we always had food on the table. I didn't have any trauma. And yet their systems really clamped down in this pattern. And what I found universally working with people individually or in the Embracing Health group is it does actually register as a trauma when we're in situations, chronic urinary tract infection, yes. It registers as traumatic, even things as simple as like being in a society where we're taught our value is outside of us, right? Produce, be more, get the right degree, do the right thing, that there's a part of ourselves that kind of slowly dies and thinks like, I'm not valued, I'm not loved, I don't matter, I'm not powerful unless I have these things. So being taught that our power and our value is conditional, our worth is conditional, like that alone registers as a trauma in the nervous system, in the immune system, that has us clamped down into fight or flight, hamster wheel it through our lives, white knuckling it. I'm going to get above this. I'm going to overcome this. It was very much a pattern I had when I was fighting autoimmune disease, right? I didn't know I had autoimmune disease. I just knew I had severe chronic pain, severe chronic fatigue. But I was like, I'm going to overcome this. But that's actually what made it worse. Like that's what created the problem in the first place. So a lot of times what are traumatic experiences, we might not register it. It's subconscious. So thanks for asking. Is this better?
I can hear you now.
Awesome. All right. Well, I would love you to share that piece of like any other pieces with what the Western medical doctors have said, what's happening with the Lyme, what's happening with medications you were requiring.
Sure. So, so everything right now is pretty stable in terms of the rheumatoid arthritis medication. I'm going to talk to the doctor at our next visit about possibly shifting something there or just playing around with it. With the Lyme doctor, we're starting into a new phase, which we've kind of been stuck from moving forward on. And my last, so when I go in, she does some work now. I can't remember what it's called, but, does some scanning. Mm-hmm. And I know in the last one, the Lyme, the Babesia, the whatever, all the different ones weren't showing up. So that's awesome.
So it's a very, very important to note, like when you're scanning the body and getting information, and there's Babesia, which is another infectious disease that can tend to be chronic. Lyme disease, which is a spirochete that kind of embeds throughout the system and can be really, really difficult to eradicate, that these are now absent from your system.
Yeah. So the last one, they weren't showing up. And so, yeah, we're going to move into a new phase with stuff, which is very exciting.
It's worth noting like how the body clears those things, right? You do have an immune system. Your immune system is either robust, sweeping things out, doing what it's designed to do, or kind of sluggish, kind of distorted. It's got all these different things to focus on. It's suppressed, which is what happens when we're in chronic fight or flight or carrying those traumas. And so the immune system can't really do what it's designed to do. And these infections kind of become chronic. They set up like a biofilm, which is a protective layer, and they hide out in the tissues or hide out in the lymph system or hide out, you name it, in the body. And so the immune system, even with the strongest antibiotics, can't get through to dissolve that. We saw this, last year, Jessica shared about having had severe chronic Lyme disease, 3 years in the bed with chronic fatigue. They told her she was going to die, completely free, cleared Lyme disease as well through this work. So it's not insignificant what happens when you create that alignment to allow strength in your immune system, to allow strengthen the detoxification pathways, because those have to be activated as well. I've seen a lot of people spend tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars with procedures, protocols, diets, medications, and nothing's really changing. And it's because of, if there's that underlying, like your immune system isn't really having the potency, it doesn't really matter how hard we work to attack and kill the bugs. We have to activate that component of your own healing mechanism.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was definitely something I have experienced. Yeah, for sure. And I just knew there was like a piece that I needed. And so, and now, yeah, to have that movement, where nothing was really touching the Lyme before. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Well, Diane is asking, would this course be helpful? So we're talking about the work in general, what's possible with, activating that healing mechanism, and specifically the Embracing Health course, which is where I bring people through the journey. We do a much deeper integration over the course of a year, where you're receiving my assistance, my team's assistance to go through the work. We started our next group in June. The information for the course is at drkimd.com/health. So you can check out the page, feel it out, get information. Diane is asking, would it be helpful for someone with depression and insomnia as the main issues without any disease, diagnoses, physical illness? And, obviously we have tons of people who've been in the program in that picture. Do you have any thoughts on that you want to share?
100%. I mean, for me, it was, like I said, for me, the real part that pushed me towards doing it was the depression. And that, like I said, this course, having been able to actually feel a different emotion, that was lightness and exciting, to actually feel it in my body. And that was worth every penny, worth every moment. And I would say too, I don't know if this is okay to add, it was, I think it's nice to know that it was not the easiest year. Like it took commitment on my part, but also patience and being really kind to myself and really gentle. And I would say to anyone who's going into the program, just really be open to everything. There are going to be moments where it's really hard and that's okay.
Yeah.
And
through those traumas, to move through the beliefs, to move through all the energy we suppressed. It's actually the opposite. You've got to let them flow and be willing to, like you said, patience. To let your body do what it's doing, as opposed to suppressing it, overriding it, overcoming it, medicating it. Yeah. What was that like for you?
That journey? Yeah.
The difficult pieces.
Yeah. So sometimes, well, it was funny because, and I knew, like, it happened at a time where I was like, okay, I know what's going on. But, there were definitely times I was just like, I'm not listening to this. Or I knew I had to step away for a bit, because, and I think this is with all learning, in fact, not just this course, but, we go through those periods of time where we just kind of need to step back, let things integrate a bit, let things process through. And then I was with that, and I was just like, that's okay, body. We can do that. Like, we can let's take a little break, so we maybe don't listen for a week or whatever, or we don't do a check-in or whatever it is, or we step away from the Facebook group for a week. Or so there were moments that I just knew I had to back off a bit to let things in.
You have to listen to your own intelligence to guide you through this work. And that's like the main point of the program, is connecting with you with that guidance, and having you have the courage to honor it and follow it and choose.
Yeah. And there were times too where my brain just was like, I can't do that. How do I wrap my brain around that? Right. And again, it was just, okay. It's okay. And that's been an amazing shift for me too, I guess. They keep coming, but, a different way of thinking, the patterns, the thinking patterns.
Yeah.
And we have to remember when we're shifting brain patterns, the neural pathways and those sorts of things. Yeah, there's going to be moments where it's not going to be so cohesive, or, but also learning, okay, how can I move through this with ease? How can I move through this with grace? Or how can I move through this painlessly?
Did you find that the program was assisting you? How did you find the program assisting you with that? Like, what was the value, for how you were assisted in that?
So, I mean, going through all of the videos it was so great to follow different people's stories, to hear them previous to us. I know that was really helpful for me. Of course, all of the different meditations or processes that you have recorded to listen to, my goodness, I listened to those and listened to those. And for me also, the monthly calls, wow, I loved the monthly calls and the weekly check-in. I think I maybe missed over the entire year, I'm thinking at most I missed 2 or 3 weekly check-ins. That's it for the whole year. I mean, that's every single week. But I was just like, the weekly check-ins and those calls were so invaluable. I just got so much out of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was really.
Yeah, Holly's saying, I think what I'm experiencing, I can't identify as traditional traumatic event, but I definitely have symptoms of it: fear, scarcity, hoarding money, fear of conflict, lack of boundaries, etc. It's actually shown in studies that this does get passed in through the DNA, that if there's a traumatic event, like grandparents went through the depression, that in your system, your programming will have like scarcity. Let's make sure to scrimp and save. Let's not, spend money on myself. And you have these programs as if that's the right thing to do. And that's going to, okay, then if we do this, we'll be safe. Even though in your life and in your experience, like the exact opposite is true, right? Not investing in yourself, not taking opportunities, not making forward steps will actually hinder you. But in your program, it's like, no, I can't do that. It's too much money. No. So you always want to check in, like, is this my truth? Or is this my programming? Because you can repattern that. It actually changes your DNA. In the study of epigenetics, it shows distinctly how your genetic codes are either like turned off or turned on to do a certain thing. So you actually change your body, you change your cells, you change your entire being when you do this kind of upgrade to a new system, which is to the true you. Wait a minute, what's true for me? Who am I? What's right for me? What do I know is true? What do I choose? Which is another major part of the program. So would you speak to that at all? Would you have seen changes in who you're being? I know I want to say Liesel is an amazing and talented vocal coach. And she offered me a while back that we did this session because I've been training vocally and it's been amazing. And it was powerful. Like, I really got a lot out of it. And the presence that you bring and the embodiment, and there were, easy little tips and tools or whatever. But for me, it was beautiful. It was really impactful. And I know that for you was like a major, major step. You're like, I never would have put myself out there. I never would have stepped into this and offered this. And are there other ways that you want to speak to, you kind of see those changes?
Yeah, well, that was definitely, the beginning of, and I think about it because, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, anyway, but definitely that was the beginning. I just kind of had this strong feeling. I was just like, I just want to offer this to you. And I normally would have kind of brushed that aside. Like I would have, no, she wouldn't want that, making up the story for you, what you would want or wouldn't want. And so I thought, okay, Liesel, you're here, you're in this, you're doing this, do it, step into this. You're hearing this calling to offer this. And I knew it was from my heart, so I was like, okay, you can do this. So I just, that was the first thing. And then the next thing would be creating the website. So I had I had like a website purchased, the stuff.
Yeah.
It was probably sitting there for a good year and a half. And then I was like, okay, so let's step into this and let's do this. And a wonderful young lady that I know stepped into my life and said, hey, I'll help you with that. And so I had her help and guidance with that. And it happened. And I pressed the button and I published it. And I was like, okay, it might not be perfect yet, but let's do it. And because we'd set our date, and whew, that was scary. And again, I was just like, no, you can feel it, right? You could feel it. And of course, too, as soon as you had mentioned being interviewed, I just knew. I was like, I didn't even know it was going to be live.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, yes. And I think about it because I used to be an opera singer. I mean, I used to stand on stage and sing in front of a lot of people. And just this journey, my life has taken me through so many twists and turns from that. And it's just really exciting to feel empowered again as well, to feel, okay, you can do this. And it's, it's valuable, and feeling valuable. And yeah.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's an important point because it's almost universal when people come through this work and integrate this. It doesn't just affect your body, right? You're shifting your electromagnetics, you're shifting your energy, you're shifting your frequency. It changes who you are, not just like to a new program, but to the true self. Oh, this is who I really am. This is what I love and care about. These are the choices that are, this is my yes and this is my no. And to have that courage to begin saying yes when it's yes and no when it's no, instead of, well, I really should do that, and not even thinking about it, not even knowing how to check in with what's true for me, what makes me more alive, but just on autopilot programming of like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Oh, I'm not going to do this. And not really actually seeing the possibilities that are available. Someone said, I'm wanting to do the instant elevation program and have been afraid to spend the money. And I'm hearing that I can just open up to this because, yeah, it will always create more prosperity when you follow that inspiration. And with resources like we have, the Instant Elevation is a DIY home study program I created to bring this work in a format that more people can access. And then for those of you who want the live assistance, who want a deeper integration, and we go through the work over the course of a whole year, it's a different program. We're integrating a lot more. We're making a lot, more in-depth changes. Some people access that just from reading the MindBody Toolkit, from reading my book. Some people access that from the DIY home study program, like feel into it, like what is my highest and best. And then there are a lot of people who wanted to work with me live and work with the team and receive more assistance. So, feel it out. Malva said, we're all crying now. Beautiful. Yes, weighted blanket on the emotions. Thank you for saying that. I can see the sparkle in your eyes is contagious and inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
Sharing your story. Beautiful, you guys. Thank you for your honesty and vulnerability, giving me hope. I wanted to also look, would this be helpful for weight problems? So if you want to speak to any of that or what you've seen, because you've seen lots of people also coming through the program, but yeah, anything that creates that harmony and you shut off the fight or flight cortisol response is directly related to resolution and unhealthy weight.
Yeah. That's not something I experienced, but I know people are experiencing that. So yeah, I wanted to say just something about the instant elevation. So that's part of the Embracing Health program. And I, when we started that, I would do it, I would do my, what was 3 or 4 or 5 times a day, or do my little check-in. And now it's like, I actually sit with it for about an hour. So it's part of my meditation every day. And it's like, I crave it. I want to do it. It's like it's like, and it's not necessarily hasn't stayed like 4 or 5 times a day, but it's like, I sit with that. So I'll have my, start my meditation, and it's just like, I'm probably in there with instant elevation for like an hour.
But there's different ways to use it. Like for
Yeah.
me, it's like a instant minute. I'm like, not even a minute, right? It's running all the time, how I'm present to my body, how I'm shifting my breathing and going deeper, letting more awareness and consciousness in. So yeah, that's great that you found such a passion for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I do those tiny little check-ins through the day. Yeah. And I'm so much more, present with everything. So feeling and being in touch with that and just breathing into things. And like, I'll just be making my big breaths throughout the day.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just, it's become part of my life, part of my everyday. So at first it might feel a little more daunting or challenging, but that is not going to last. It totally changes. And, I know for me, it was a change within the first couple of months or so. And it's just continually been changing. But yeah.
Well, I would love you to share your website. I would love to put that for people who want to.
Oh, should I just tell you? Or, okay, it's Liesel Fed, Liesel, F as in Frank, D as in dog, at .com, lieselfed.com. That's it.
There we go. All right, I just posted it. So people are asking, what are the weekly check-ins? How do they work? So what we're doing in the new program, we've upgraded this every year because we're getting more feedback. We're getting more insight about what are the most potent things, what is ready to fall away. So what we do is a monthly call each month where I'll come in, we'll be in a Zoom room, the whole group, and I will do the sort of the education part of this, but also the consciousness, it's a transmission of consciousness that, like we're actually doing the work in the call. It's not like, here's the stuff, now go and practice it. And like later on you create the shifts. The shifts are actually happening during the call as we entrain to this higher wisdom. So you're letting that in, you're letting it into your cellular. I'm guiding you through the exercises we're doing. You'll also have recordings from past calls where we did really deep integrations to dissolve these traumas, to dissolve old belief patterns, to dissolve where you're in closure and you don't even know it, instead of like opening to receive healing, lightness, resources, synchronicities like you had with the web developer person, opening to the power of your own courage, taking your energy back, all of the things that resource your body to do the healing for you. So you have those recorded calls, and we've upgraded those this year as well, where we have changed those calls so there's more potency. Then in the Facebook group, we're doing, an online community. So for people who want more assistance, Jessica and Alicia, who are both the MindBody mentors I've been working with and mentoring for years and years, are in there regularly to look at the questions, look at the posts, get a feel, get a check-in for what's happening in the group. And then I'll post a video or an exercise or something so people can move along with that. And then in addition, I'm going to go in live in the group once a month, in addition to that first live call, to do answer questions and look at what's coming up for people. And it's not so much like, help fix my problem. Someone's asking, what do we do for ourselves with this work versus working with an energy healer to clear out the patterns. This is the big distinction in this work, is it's like, you can feed a man a fish or you can teach them how to fish. So if I'm giving people information like, oh, here's what's going on in your system, that's great. But we're really moving more and more toward focusing on how you have the awareness of your system, how you know exactly what's going on, how you have the guidance of the clarity, because that's in your, every moment, every 10 seconds, you're driving the ship, you're steering the ship. And when you need outside resources to tell you what to do or to clear the energy for you, you're less empowered to do that yourself. So what we're doing in this course is giving you the tools that you're managing the system, you're aware of what's going on, you're in the guidance and clarity, you're choosing according to what really feeds and fuels you and heals your body. So that's what we'll do with the monthly check-in when I come live into the group. Do you want to share anything about that? I know those have been so loved by the participants.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what I would say too, just to finish that up, is it's so empowering. It doesn't mean maybe you're not going to see somebody once in a while, a healer or of some sort, whether it's, an acupuncturist or a naturopath or whatever you're doing, but it's just, it's so empowering to be more in touch with your own stuff. and doesn't mean you're cut out everything you're doing, but now you are, there's so much more clarity. I have so much more clarity on what is right for me, is something like you say, Dr. Kim, you say, bing, 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 what's a light you up sort of thing, and what isn't. So it's like, there's so much more clarity in my body in terms of, okay, what's yes, that's a yes, that's a no. And if it's not 100% yes, then it's a no. So that's really awesome. And those, the calls, like I said, I didn't miss 1 week, like maybe three in the whole year. Weekly calls. I never missed a monthly call, that's for sure. But they were just so much, I guess it was guidance, and through other people's questions too, you were really learning about how can I integrate this into my life, or how can I integrate this into something that's going on with me? And, as we learn, we need to hear things multiple times and maybe said in different ways. And that's the way our brain is going to start to connect it. And so those weekly calls were just that, like such a training, and so expansive in that way. And for the monthly calls too, well, those were just, the monthly calls are awesome. Like, they're just, even if it's not you talking, even if it's not you being, in the hot seat or whatever you want to call it, it affects, it's so moving. It's so powerful. So, yeah.
Well, I have Sylvia that is posting, I completely agree with every word Liesel is saying about the program. I'd just like to add, this is not just about health, but for embracing life in a very powerful way, no matter where one is in their journey. Love this course, and the best thing I ever chose. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you for sharing that.
Definitely.
So any questions people have, we're going to complete in just a sec. Holly's like, that's what I need, empowerment and clarity. Malva, are the live calls on a European time zone we can participate in? Yes, we have many people in the European time zones. The live calls are at this time. So they're at 11 a.m. Mountain time. Right now it's 12. So we just finished our hour. It's 12 o'clock Mountain time, just about. So for Europe, this has been a great time. I will say, for people in Australia and New Zealand, they have been very happy with listening to the recordings. We did have quite a few Australia, New Zealand. So we did a bonus call to do one for their time zone. So I had some live interaction there. I would anticipate that, we do something similar this year if that is the case, because it's not as convenient a time for New Zealand and Australia. What else? What program might this person I described above benefit most from if she would commit to it? So Mary is asking about someone who developed bipolar disorder. I always suspected some kind of trauma was the trigger. So this is really something you would choose for yourself. If you share this opportunity with that person or someone that you're inspired to share with, yes, and let them choose it. They'll either know, like, ding, 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 yeah, and maybe some encouraging words, sure. But sometimes we want to like help other people, and it's like, oh, you need this. But it's really a matter of like, well, what if I receive this? Who could I be with a deeper integration throughout my true self? Who could I be with accessing more of my power for my body, my health, and creating my life? So I would say it's just so common. We always think like, oh, this person really needs that. And you always want to look, wait a minute, what can I receive? Am I ready to receive this? So definitely share all of this. Share this video with people you love. Share this opportunity for sure, especially if this is something that inspires you. But it's always helpful to look at like, who am I ready to be in my life? Because that's what's going to inspire people around you the most. Sarah, I have zero regrets about having been in the Embracing Health this past year. Thank you, Sarah. Anything else you want to say about that specifically too? And you guys can post in the MindBody community any of your experiences, people who've been in the program in the past or this year. It's really, really helpful for people to feel you, to hear your experience of what you were struggling with and what this was like, and where you're at now. So thank you so much, Liesel.
Thanks for having me. It was my pleasure. And it's just been the best, greatest year. And I agree. It's been worth every moment, every penny, every struggle, every victory, everything. Yeah, it's been amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. The link for the program is at drkimd.com/health. If you want to look at it and get a bigger feel. If you have any questions, you can email our team at support@drkimd.com, and we'll make sure to assist you with clarity of what's the best fit for you and are you ready, and any other questions that weren't addressed. There's lots on the page though. So is there anything else you would like to leave people with before we complete?
If it's calling your name, go for it. And love you so much.
Thank you so much too. You are so beautiful. I'm eager to see your continued expansion and how you change lives with your amazing work. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
I love
Bye.
you. Thank you. We'll be here every week live for MindBody TV. The next several weeks will be for the MindBody Miracles series. So you're going to hear from other people who've come through this journey. A lot of the stories are very different. And maybe the things they struggled with are very different, or the specific illness they came in with, or like we mentioned earlier, some people didn't have a diagnosis. They're just like, wow, I want to feel more fully alive. So we will profile several different people who came forward eager to share their story over the next few weeks. Each week we'll be here live at 11 a.m. Mountain Time in the MindBody community in Facebook and my YouTube channel, Dr. Kim Duramo. Reach out and subscribe at Dr. Kim D if you want to stay tuned with what we're doing. I look forward to seeing you guys soon. I love you. Blessings.
Bye.